The Paddo Paperboy by Paul D. Sullivan, Newport 2106. Narrated by David Tredinnick. I grew up as a kid in Paddington, Sydney, New South Wales in the 1960s. These were my formative years, but what really made me was my job as a paperboy. Of course, I had all the parental support of a loving home and safe place to thrive, but also my parents gave me the gift of independence and the hunger to work and save. I followed my older brother when I was about 10 years old and took on a paper round, 5 afternoons a week after school, from about 3:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. Being a paperboy was an eye-opener. First, one was given responsibility, a job, papers to sell, money bag, paper cart, a route to follow, and established customers to deliver the paper to. Importantly, though, one had the chance to engage with people walking through the neighbourhood, blowing the whistle, shouting out, "Paper!" Paddington in the mid-1960s was an interesting place. Predominantly blue-collar workers, but with a hint of gentrification. The newcomers were artists, creative types, film and TV people, fashion models and clothes designers. The paper round included delivery to houses, factories, and of course, the local drinking holes. My route included Sutherland Street, where I sold papers at the 4-in-hand pub. It was a bastion of the workers, with an all-male public bar, sawdust on the floor, and the 6 o'clock swill in action. There was a saloon bar where the women could sit and have a quiet drink. Men could only enter if accompanying a woman. At least that's how I remember it. They treated me very well, giving me handfuls of peanuts in the shell to eat as I did my round of the pub, and sometimes even a lemon squash. No TV screens or pokies here, just beer to be consumed before going home for tea. I would head down Cascade Street afterwards to the industrial area around Trumper Park. It was a mixture of light industry, commercial and residential space. One minute I was visiting a wine merchant, next a factory turning out nuts and bolts, or a small warehouse loading trucks, or a fabric design studio. I often used to see a bloke walking his 2 muzzled greyhounds. I'd always wonder about that. The dogs were not aggressive, and I was never sure why the trainers had the dogs, but I suppose it was the chance of winning a few bob. I vividly remember one day asking a frail old man why his cough was so bad. He told me that he had been gassed during World War I. He wasn't looking for sympathy, but just gave an answer to a direct question in a stoic sort of way. The exposure I had as a paperboy gave me a ticket to visit all these people at work, on the street, at home, or the pub. It was always exciting and interesting for me to see the daily lives of people and to sell them a paper whilst travelling through the world. I watched and learnt how things fit together. Naturally, there were rainy days which made things difficult, but the worst ones for a paperboy were windy days, which blew the papers away. Luckily, these were few. The good days on the round involved a lot of playing handball against the pub wall with Robbie, my mate from primary school, who lived 2 doors up from the pub. Very convenient, as I could sell papers and play handball at the same time. An innovation that the newsagent brought to my paper round was a single-axle, 2-wheeled, T-bar style, pull-handle paper cart. This was a huge step up from the old homemade wooden barrows. This new equipment enabled me to bring my skateboard along and happily skate down the hills towing the cart. It was so cool and such fun. In those days we had public phone boxes with handsets and a mechanism with an A and a B button for making and paying for the call. We had a scheme where we could ring the newsagent and request an additional drop of papers without paying. It was a one-way call only, and within about 30 minutes the newsagent would drop off additional papers. You may ask what people read in Paddington in those days. It was the Sun or the Mirror. These were the afternoon papers, and not too highbrow, containing lots of crime and sport and the odd pin-up. The rest were magazines like Women's Weekly, Women's Day, Picks, Post, and betting guides like Best Bets or The Globe. On my return leg, I sold papers to the people at Stax Holden on Glenmore Road. I was very much intrigued by the technological aspects of the company. the switchboard operators connecting many calls, the vacuum tubes for sending notes around the factory, and particularly the computer room with its punch card operators, magnetic tape reels, and large boxed-in computers the size of a house, full of whirring dials and flashing lights. After the completion of the round, it was back to the newsagents to square up, count the cash and paper sales, and look at the latest comics before heading home. As an inquisitive child, I was able to learn a lot from my paper round. The people and our interactions made the paper round such an adventure. I was given the responsibility of dealing with customers, taking money for sales, time management, and finally reconciling all at the end of the day. Earning money enabled me to save for things I wanted to buy, and an appreciation of the benefits of spending my time productively. A key aspect was the ability to deal with people from all walks of life and enjoy and learn from it. I went on to high school at Sydney Boys High and had a career in information technology. The end.